All right. Strap on in for another episode of Breaking the Mould. I'm your host, Sean Greer. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Voltex Services, the punctual tradies that treat your home like a home and not like a job site. And Element Interiors, commercial shop fitting company bringing your lifelong dream to reality. Today's guest is Cassandra Rowan from Queensland, Australia. She is a multi-award winning electrician and a female advocate for women in the trades. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Sean. That's quite an introduction.
Yeah, I thought I'd wind it up.
Yeah, you did well.
That's it. So I just wanted to cover a few things today about, what got you into your career choice? What was the first stepping stone? Were you on the path originally to become a tradesperson always, or was there something that tilted the scales for you to get you to go that way?
Yeah, so not always, definitely not. I was a scholarship student at school, heavily involved in maths. I couldn't dissect a poem to save myself. And so whilst I was at school and in grade 12, decided that I actually wanted to be a pilot. The best way for me to get through to that was to potentially do engineering. But I graduated in 2006. And so that was when there was a little bit of fiscal change happening in the economy. I'd graduated school and was relatively certain I didn't want to go to university and go straight back into study. I came from a culture and a school where everybody went to university, and I just knew that probably wasn't the time in my life for me to be doing that. But I'm not really a gap year sort of person. So I said to my mum, I graduated one week, said to my mum the next week, okay, she said, what do you want? And I said, I want to be qualified in something. I don't want to look back and wish that I would have worked harder or that I'd missed an opportunity. And she said, what about a trade? And I said, I don't think I could do hairdressing. I don't have the patience. And she goes, no, not hairdressing. She said, there's so many different trades you can do. And being from North Queensland originally, a lot of friends had done trades, but like my dad, he'd done a carpentry apprenticeship, but he went into the police force after that. So it wasn't as though I was surrounded by it. So I kind of had to do a lot of it under my own steam, with the support from mum, though, to say, like, keep putting yourself back out there. So it was as a really roundabout way of getting to engineering, to be honest, which is why I went into electrical, because for me, that just really opened up a lot of avenues. I could use my maths brain a little bit more than my English brain, which isn't too bad, but it's just not where my passion lied.
Yeah, that's it. Wow. So your whole part of your journey, you established at the start that you wanted to become an engineer. Is that where you were going with that? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll get the fundamentals down, because I understand that we can learn as much as we want within a classroom, and there's definitely a time and place for that. But I really wanted to have the grassroots understanding of how things worked, why they worked. And as I saw it, an apprenticeship was 4 years to really bed down what I wanted to do, really focus and get the practical skills that I knew would follow me around for the rest of my life. Not only that, there was an opportunity to earn and learn at the same time, which was a real incentive for me. I'd seen a lot of cousins come and go with HECS debts and saying, oh God, this is going to follow me around for so long. And I just really knew that I didn't want to put that burden on myself or on anybody else. And if I was able to do something where I would get the qualifications, get the understanding, and really have some skin in the game, then that would probably set me up a lot better. So yeah, electrical is where I landed.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Well, it's always good to go, I believe, from essentially the bottom up, right? So, instead of just going to the engineer role, let's learn out actually what it's like out in the field. Like, a lot of my friends, a few of them in viticulture and stuff like that, doing winemaking and things like that. And one of them's really, really successful now. But the difference is a couple of them tried to go straight to the top at the winemaking level. And he actually started in the field and was like, okay, I want to learn how to, harvest the grapes, pull the grapes in and all that sort of stuff. And then he, worked his way up. And then all of a sudden he's 28 now and he's a master of winemaking at one of the biggest wineries in South Australia. It's like, you need to pick that path, right? And
the grassroots really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I think a lot of people forget is that it is all still a journey, and you are getting paid along the way. So an apprenticeship's a great way to start. And there is like 1,000 different avenues in each trade. Like, you can specialize in so many different things. The way you start might not be the way you end up, right? Quite often,
yeah,
and where you end up.
And that's it. Like, we come from historically a culture where, like, our parents had one career or two careers for their whole life, and that's where they started and finished. So I think we're up to maybe 7 on average now. And it's only going further because there are more options out there. There are careers that haven't even been invented yet that we're trying to remain current for. So I think it really just helps you diversify your skill set if you know all the different moving parts. Like I never would have imagined that I'd go on the journey that I've gone on when I was handing out resumes or looking up the paper, because Seek didn't exist then, for postage stamp size ads to apply to. So again, and in my current setting, when either mentoring people or speaking with people, I say you're making a decision now for your future, but where you start isn't where you finish. So say yes to the opportunities, work as hard as you can, and just absorb everything. So
absolutely, that's very important for people to keep the end goal in mind when they're taking this journey. And one of the things I do try and spread to, especially work experienced people that come through my company or apprentices, is do some background research on the company you're about to apply for. So just because they're an electrician doesn't mean that's the field you want to work in, right? As you and I both know, there's so many different ranges and so many different diversities in that field. So it's really about, doing some research before you go into that job interview to get that better opportunity. I always sit there and say, if someone's going to come and ask me for a job or a work experience, and I got someone that comes in and goes, hey, can I please have a job? I want to be an electrician. Or someone that goes in, hey, I noticed you do, commercial work. I'm really interested on the last couple of projects you've done. Blah, 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 name a few. And then go, that this is the space I want to work in. I think people need to understand that difference, right?
100%, because it then involves the company culture.
Yep.
You can see if your values align as well. Like there's that old saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I'm not as much of an optimist to think that will always be the case, because that's the reason we get paid. We work hard, we have a purpose, and it's not always easy. If it was, we probably wouldn't get paid. Yeah. So, but knowing that you've got a similar mindset, a similar tact, and that you can stand behind the values of a company really helps as well. But then, as you said, there's so much different opportunity. Like and being very secular in the electrical world, we have people who do electrical in brain institutes and medical facilities. And then we've got people that are hauling HV cables and getting very, very dirty. So an electrician's not an electrician, no different to plumbing or construction or any sort of vocation, warehousing. Like it's showing an employee that you've got that investment in them and that you want a career and not just a job. That's where I think like having the different career changes throughout your life cycle, and how I said that we're going to that 6 or 7, I still think there's a lot to be said for genuine investment in loyalty in employer as well, because that's really hard to come by as well. We're of a generation where, like you said, everyone wants to be at the top start, and it's just not realistic. And if you're at the top straight away and you start there, I don't think you have the appreciation for what it takes for people to get there. So showing interest in something outside of your own world is great.
Absolutely, and I love that you touched on culture there, because a huge part of, I think it's like businesses are changing as well compared to the conventional way of the boss is up here and this is what the rules are and all that sort of stuff. I think culture is going to drive the future of the companies, and it's I try and instill something here at work where it's work-life balance for me doesn't really exist. I have to create an environment where people want to come to work. That's my job as a business owner. I have to create an environment where they have to understand that work is a part of their life and they have to enjoy it. So what I do, a lot of what I do in my business is I will integrate personal life stuff, challenges, stuff with mental support, various different things, budgeting and things like that. I'll do seminars on those. Rather than, and then, the fruits of the labor actually comes back tenfold when you invest in their personal life. So I think...
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's just something I've learned over the last 2 years, and it's really, I've had a massive turnaround in, just people rocking up to work in different mindsets, and actually giving that little bit extra and things like that. And I'm not doing it for them to do that. As a business owner, when I first started, we wanted to try and change the industry and make sure that people rocking up on time, the typical pitfalls of a tradesperson is time, price, and
Yeah.
accountability, right? So, and cleanliness. So and paperwork. Like that's
I
the
was going to
5,
say,
right?
and job sheets.
Yeah, job sheets are a nightmare, right? So when I first stepped out, we're like, okay, we need to work on. I want to work on these 5 areas and make them the best I possibly can do, and review them every year. Then you get trapped in the whole, business owner trying to make money, trying to grow, trying to do everything you possibly can do, and you get lost.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2 years ago I had a an awakening moment, and it just like hit me like a lightning bolt, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And then it started working on those. Yeah, why did you start? What are you doing? And so I went back to the 5, and we just started tackling one at a time with each staff member. And the turnaround has just been absolutely massive with clients and staff. So I think that culture shift is coming. Oh, it's here. Everyone's more aware, social media, and I think it's going to be a huge advantage for a lot of diversity in the trade world moving forward.
Yeah, and it really does filter out. So again, like leading back to, it can't be perfect every day, but the more we look at our team members as humans, and okay, yes, we need an output from them, we need an outcome from them. That's why we're running a business. That's why we've got a commodity. But if people are happy and heard within their workspace, I think that makes such a difference. And knowing that, like I've always tried to resonate with what team I'm managing. I've tried to say, look, I'll never expect anything of you that I wouldn't have been willing to do myself or haven't done myself. I'm not a dictator. I'm not going to set impossible goalposts, and I'll support you through. But I need to know. So we have an open communication policy. I can't help if I don't know. I'll dig a little bit. Respect your privacy, but it's really just having that team culture and that understanding that you've got the support, because we can't always be 100% every day because life happens. I get, and that's where we need to. And I think I'm seeing it a lot more now, the human element coming into play, which was always present in the construction industry, like particularly like I entered in 2007, so the start of 2007, so 14 years ago, which at 32 it's a large portion of my life, and it doesn't sound that much when you look at it from the outside, but this is what I've known for a long time now. And I've seen some amazing improvements, and just the awareness surrounding whether it's male, female, just that, as you said, the work-life balance, and making the workplace not somewhere you've got to run away from or escape, something that you can blend into your life and go, okay, this is, because we're working for a lot longer now. Like we're not retiring at 60.
Yeah, that's it. I wish we were.
Halfway there.
But
it's just not happening that way anymore. So we can't live a life that we need to run away from, or that our team and our support networks need to run away from, because the reality is we're working for longer as well. So that resilience piece comes in, that support piece comes in, and I'm seeing it improve across the industry, which is good.
That is awesome. That's so good. Did you have many challenges when you were entering into the trade world, and throughout your apprenticeship? Like, if you name a few, I'm sure there was challenges.
Last week.
Where do I begin?
So I think for me, like getting into the trade space with not having, like, I didn't have mates. My dad, like everybody that I knew who went into a trade, their dad owned the company, or their dad worked on tools, or they had that instant in. Like I said, I was looking through newspaper ads, like graduated grade 12, went to school, came home. I already had a part-time job to put fuel in the car, sort of thing. And then looking through the paper and just calling people up. I had people say, oh, how old is your son? And at that stage, I sounded about 12 years old on the phone anyway. And I said, oh, no, it's for me. And I just had somebody go, oh, good luck, love. Hung up the phone.
Seriously?
That probably happened about a dozen times. People thought I was playing jokes as well. They're like, yeah, good luck. Like, don't waste my time. It's like, okay, thank you. And so just didn't take no for an answer, because I wasn't in a position to be pushy, but just tried to be genuine in how I came across and say, look, I'm really looking for an opportunity. And where I finally got the break. So it seemed like forever, but when you're a proactive person, a week's a really long time. So I was just calling, getting the paper every day. And I saw an ad, And it was literally the size of a postage stamp, but long story short, ended up being for a multinational. So it was a refrigeration company that had just been bought out by the Hasty Group, who aren't any longer in the current inclination that they were, but they had just been bought out. And I got a call from the gentleman say, yep, you can come in. He goes, we've got 1 electrical and 2 refrigeration. So you're probably not going to get the electrical because we're not going to give that to a girl over a boy. He goes, but I'll give you the interview.
Oh my God.
Well, and it's funny how things end up. But I went in for the interview, dressed not like I was going for a trade interview, dressed how I normally would professionally go. And sat the interview. There was a heap of other gentlemen there. So in and around, we're all about 17, 18. I had the interview. I sat an aptitude test, which was maths. So I was stoked. Aced that one. And then at the end, he said, okay, so what would you do if somebody was inappropriate to you? He goes, because I'm going to get asked these questions. And I said, okay. I'm like, that's fair enough. I didn't really know what was normal and what was not. And I said, well, if somebody's being inappropriate, I said, I'd probably discuss it with them first. I said, I get that this is going to be new to them. I said, but if I don't give them the right of reply first, they said they might not realize that what they're doing is inappropriate. I said, that might be an education piece for them. And he was kind of really rocked in that. Like, he was a lovely man. He had 4 daughters. So he admired my courage in applying. And then, left the interview, and 3 days later he called me and said, oh, would you like an early Christmas present? I said, always. And I'd gotten the electrical role, which was amazing.
Wow.
I was horse riding at the time, and I think I squealed and the horse bolted. But it was like, and he copped a lot of flack for that.
Really?
And and we're still friends, like, to this day.
Wow.
He's a lovely man. He was a real champion of mine. And that, with all the difficulties that I faced, like, and it's not something that other people don't face. And I don't necessarily know that a lot of the time it was because I was female, but I think it's just sort of that breaking the ceiling sort of thing and going, okay, this is normal. Let's just all get on board. But that's something that I've tried to, within each role or company or difficulty, I've tried to find a champion.
Yeah.
So, because you really do need that, whether you are male, female, new, young, you need somebody who you can go to. And if you are willing to put in the work, that they will see you for who you are, not what you are.
Yeah.
And so, I found in him a champion. So I tried to repay that faith. I wasn't the world's best apprentice. By the end of it, I was really focused, but there was just like, it was, apprenticeships are hard. You don't come out of it being a tradesperson. You're a 50-year apprentice, essentially.
Yeah.
So he was really great in that capacity. He was an excellent champion. And like I said, I just tried to repay that faith. But I noticed, like, so from there I went to estimating. So I got signed off early because, and it was just something that the company did, was they would put apprentices through estimating, because you'll be on site and somebody will go, oh, don't know how they got, we've got a week to do this. And typically it was an estimator who said, half an hour should be enough per PowerPoint sort of thing.
Yeah.
We can always, it's a side issue then.
Yeah.
And so we went through estimating, and they said, oh, you've shown some promise for this. Like, would you like to come in full time and do estimating? We need a junior estimator. And that was, like, I was 21 at the time. I was about to get married. I knew that kids would be on the horizon. I thought, this is my chance to have a career, not just a job, because I was surrounded by a lot of people who were going, like, EBA rates, we're going to get all this money, site and height allowance, and you don't get that when you go onto salary. You have to, like, it's starting the long slog again to prove yourself and start at the bottom and go back up. So, but that was where I saw this turning point and went, this is where I can diversify and, again, get to understand another part of the role. So through that, I met enough engineers and went, oh, I don't think I want to be an engineer. But it wasn't my bag. I like the people side of things. And I saw it as a genuine opportunity to get to go and meet builders, to get to really have that personal touch while being able to throw the numbers together and get an outcome. So that was the next step. And I think that was the commencement of where I faced the most, I suppose, the challenges and the setbacks that get to you the most, not just the, oh no, because like when you're on site and you're one of the girls, it was kind of like snakes. They're more afraid of you than you are of them. And then about a week and you've got 40 big brothers and it's all good.
Yeah, that's it.
But moving into the corporate world, that's where I really found that people necessarily wouldn't say those things to your face. So that was where, again, just working as hard as I could and finding those champions. But by the time I finished estimating, so I was pregnant. I had my daughter at 33 weeks. I was still working 11 hours a day, went into preterm labor. Okay, this is the new adventure.
Yeah.
And so was on maternity leave for 6 months. And when I was coming back, it was 2014 at the start. And people weren't spending a lot of money on construction in Queensland. It was a really hard slog. There was a lot of pricing, not a lot of winning. It was a race to the bottom. And I just said, look, probably isn't what I want to come back into. Where do you need me? And the company that I was working for, which is now a really large national company electrically, they said, look, we're trying to push into the service division. We've done a lot of work while you've been away, but we need pretty much somebody to be all hands on deck doing account management, like even just down to legislative and code compliant RCD testing and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and when we started that, like while I'd been away, it had gone sort of from a $500,000 business, and then we pushed. And I think by the time I left, when I was a senior account manager in 2017, that was, and it was due to a massive group effort, that was like a $16 million a year business. So it was huge, and that was a wonderful opportunity. And from that, I got to work under somebody who was, again, one of my champions. So that was really good. So, but yeah, the diversities that you face in a corporate workplace, and I think running your own business, you'll understand these sorts of things. They're not as open and transparent as the diversities that you'll face
on site.
Yeah.
Very different world.
Like yeah, people will have it out on site, whereas in corporates, you don't know until it's too late sometimes if it's not aligned with you. So yeah, resilience building, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely is. Site is very, very different to in the office. And I, as you said, as mentioned before, being a business owner, learning some new things in the office, like having staff members in the office, having an argument compared to the guys on site having an argument is very, very different. I remember one day I came upstairs and two of the ladies in the office were both in tears, and I walked in and I said, what's going on? And they were like, oh, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that. And I was like, right, what do I do here? Like, I don't know. I've never been faced with this. Normally it's just a quick argument with people on site and they just have separate ways, and then at smoke or lunch, like, oh, hey mate, yeah, sorry mate, look, I was a bit fired up, don't worry about it. Where this had been festering for months and I didn't even know about it, and then I'm faced with a different dynamic of issue and a different way of, and I have to sort it out diplomatically and give time and space and hear them out. Where on site you would never even really hear about it. I don't think. You'd just be like, oh, that's just Dave. Yeah. That's just Dave being Dave or Rick.
He's having a bad day.
Don't worry about him, mate. He's fine.
Yes. Is it his team lost? He's not having a good day. We'll give him
exactly. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about being nominated for these awards and the awards that you've just put on the belt along the way.
That was so the first. I'm very lucky to work in an industry where you get recognition. Like first and foremost, not every industry will you have an award or like, and we all know the construction industry loves a good long lunch and an award ceremony.
Yeah, not afraid.
But yeah, exactly. So I think like first and foremost, I'm really fortunate that I'm working in a space where you can get the recognition, and now in a space where we can give other people recognition as well in terms of our apprentices and trainees. But as a part of my role with the account management, like when I went from the bottom of the service division to then working up to a junior account manager, senior key account manager, we used to do a lot of defect and liability periods with builders. So we just finished a project at one of the universities in Brisbane here, and I'd been working with John Holland on the defect and liability period, which can sometimes be a really tense process because you're either apologizing, repairing, fixing, and finding issues that came up on site and have either been forgotten about and now have to be rectified within a really short period of time. So there's an easy handover, or when sometimes there's issues that you just can't fix, but you've got to work in as a team. But I think really fronting up every day, and again, being the only girl, I think I was 25 at the time, coming in and going, yeah, we'll lift this pit, look at that, that's on us, that's on you. The project manager cheekily put me forward to one of the ladies at Narwick, Women in Construction, the branch. And so I've been working with this young lady. I think she should nominate, I think she should be a mentor, and I think that she should nominate for the Businesswoman Award. And so they called me, you've been put forward by this gentleman, would you like to nominate? And I said, oh, that's really lovely. I said, and they said, no, we'd like you to nominate. So I nominated for that one. And then it was a couple of weeks later that they called and said, look, we've gone through your submission. Would you nominate for the Crystal Vision Award, which is the advancement of women in the construction industry? It's sponsored by Lend-Lease, who are an avid supporter of women in construction. I said, oh, okay. And so then got to the awards. My mum was living in Canberra at the time, so she flew here for it. And I was like, oh, it's going to be so embarrassing if nothing happened. But it was just a great experience to be a part of it all. And then
definitely.
got there. And it was so nice because my CEO had come from Sydney to attend, him and his wife. My general manager was there, my direct supervisor, like the whole crew turned out. It was great.
Wow.
And then got there and read the program, and mum's like, oh my God, you're nominated for the other one as well. So I'd become a finalist for the Crystal Vision Award, not just the Businesswoman Award. Wow. So they're rolling through the awards straight out the gate, the Business Award. And this really deserving lady won that. She had been, she's in legal and had started her own business, just battled a lot of odds, also while having twins. Like, she nailed it. Wow. I'm really happy for her. Anyway, we're coasting through the night, blah, blah, blah. We get to the final award of the night, which is akin to like the Brownlow. And I won that one. So awkward thing was finalist for it. So I'd written my whole speech like for something else, going, oh, I should write something and be prepared. But as you can tell, I chalk underwater with a mouthful of marbles. So when I was
you're fine.
I was okay. I was prepared.
Absolutely.
And and it was just amazing. It was such a wonderful experience. And because two of the people that were there were the champions that I was talking about. And it was an opportunity for me to thank them as well, because them being champions for me didn't always sit well with either the greater business or other people, or it was like they went into bat for me at times where it would have been easier for them not to. So that was opportunity, and it was, I think I rode on that cloud for ages. It was just such a nice feeling. So it's opened up a lot of opportunities for me to be able to speak. Like I'm mentoring now again. I went through it was probably one of the most nerve-wracking days of my life, because I'd just gone for an interview with a multinational company for a huge step up in my career. So I had that interview, and then they said, oh, so what are you doing this afternoon? I'm like, oh, I've got an awards ceremony. And they're like, oh, let us know how you go. So that was really lovely. They were really excited for me. So I was going through a huge period of change and just personal growth. And it was a really nice way to kick it off. So I was incredibly grateful. And Narwick do amazing things with nationally, with a lot of support from a lot of really big stakeholders. So like I said, that was sponsored by Lend-Lease, and now they're still doing amazing things. So it's great to see that being taken really seriously from a higher level. So it was great.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Like Lend-Lease is just huge, aren't they? And they're big advocates, as you said.
And that's it. And it's not so much just throwing cash at something or handing out an award or having a day where everybody dresses in pink. It's putting your money where your mouth is and going, we're genuinely invest in this as a business. Yeah. So seeing that is really heartening as well, because there's genuine outcomes to come from it, whether male, female, unaligned, whatever.
If anything, just more awareness as well. Like just that alone. Yeah. The recognition and awareness and. Yeah,
and it's been nice, because there's a saying that gets touted in this sort of space a lot: girls can't be what they can't see. And so the thing is, like, coming from a private school where girls don't do trades, you just don't. Like, I had people say to me, I thought you were smart. Like, thank you.
Thank you. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
See you in 10 years.
Exactly. Yes. So, I get those sorts of comments. And now it's like, and particularly when either you look a certain way or you act a certain way, like it's nice for girls to go, this is a job and this is a genuine option. And
Yeah.
if I want to go do nursing and I have to go to uni, or if I want to go do this, if I want to do design, or I can be an engineer, or I can go and throw on some steel caps and work as hard as I possibly can, a really long day in the sun, but get a genuine outcome from it. It's just nice if it makes one girl go, yep, this is an option. I think it's been worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, I think as well in the trade industry, the benefits definitely outweigh the cons. As you said before, you don't get this huge HECS debt, and then you don't know. Let's be honest. At that age, when you're entering into apprenticeship or entering into a uni degree, a lot of people, to be brutally honest, would not know what they want to do.
No.
Right? Because there's not that much information out there right now. Even though it's the most information that's ever been in the world. But for some reason, it's just too hard to find. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's fake. What's actual news. So, you got all these stepping stones along the way, and at least at the end of your apprenticeship, you don't have a debt, right?
Yeah.
At least at the end of your apprenticeship, you can get a job anywhere in the world. Like you can take your trade, go somewhere else, and define the rest of your life from that one stepping stone.
Yeah. And what I've seen happen time and time again, either with close friends or family or people that now come to us for a trade role, in that period, you're becoming an adult. You've left the safety net of schooling, which you've had for the past 13 years. You're finding out who you are. If you're one of the younger ones, you can now legally drink. You are trying to figure out who you are in the world and what sort of person you are, away from the support network of I'm structured going to school each day.
Yep.
And I find that either people go and they will thrive because they've got that structure back in the safety net of, okay, I'm being told where to go and what to do each day. But then like the amount of people at 22 and 23 having these existential crises and going, I don't know if this is what I want. And that was one of the reasons I made the decision, because my mum was not pushing me to uni. She said, you're your own person. I know that you'll work hard at whatever you do. So, and I'm incredibly lucky to have that. I know a lot of people whose parents said it's uni or nothing. Like basically you've got two choices, uni or uni. And yes, some of them made a really good go of it, but some of them, it just wasn't for them. And then they've got these, like you said, they've got these debts, and then they're trying to get homes and all the rest of it. And it just becomes this self-perpetuating cycle of going, I'm unhappy because I did something that I didn't necessarily want to do, but it was what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
I've now got debt because of it. I can't get ahead. I'm not qualified. Whereas it's much easier within a trade space to get the life experience. Like you've got your older peers, so your tradesmen, your supervisors, and that was one of the things I found for me, because I'm a little bit of a sensitive soul. So coming out of high school, I had to get a much thicker skin. Like it was, I was, and now like I've got a wicked sense of humor, and can sometimes be a little bit of a dark sense of humor.
Yeah, that's fine though.
The experience that your peers give you, I think it's literally the old head gets put on the young shoulders a lot more often. So I think that that's where opening it up for people, in particular like yourself, who's saying like the mainstream learning wasn't for you. And so we're constantly like, if we're constantly judging an elephant on its ability to climb a tree, it's always going to think it's valuable. It's not fair, and it's not in line with what happens in the real world. Like I have, with all the teams that I've managed, they've all had a very different skill set, but I haven't expected them all to be the same person, because we're not.
That's right.
I think is where schooling and sometimes perhaps uni, there is a little bit of a drop there. So
you kind of just like, siloed, right? You just you kind of siloed, and as you said, everyone's different. So your job as a leader and a team leader, as you've been in so many different accounts, is to get the best out of that one individual. That one individual might react a different way to certain situations, and you're there to identify those, right? You're there to push. And I think a lot of people, when they get in that power position as well, some people can overstep their bounds, but you get so much more out of people by not being a dictator, giving them some space, giving them some autonomy, and then letting them set some of their own ground rules. Like the buy-in from letting someone else choose their path on their day is
Yeah.
100 times better and way more efficient for a business owner or a team leader.
Yeah.
It's tenfold. So you were saying about mentoring and goal setting before. Some of the stuff that we work on here is, I'll set 5 tasks for the quarter for people to improve on, right? But then what I'll do is I'll put it up to them to give me a time frame on that task. I'll say, okay, we have our below the line stuff that has to get done every day, guys, like your email checking, your job bookings, and all that sort of stuff. But above the line, we want to work on some creative space stuff, and in that creative space, there's going to be things like customer service, like finding out where we can make that better, doing surveys, whatever that looks like. Okay, who wants to take responsibility for this role? Someone will pick it. When will that task be done? When are you going to identify the 5 things or 3 things or 2 things that we need to improve on? And then I actually do it in a social environment as well, so they get social buy-in. Because social buy-in is better than anything else you can possibly do. Money doesn't work. Money incentives don't work because they always expect more.
Yeah.
So a social buy-in is tenfold better, I've found in my instance. So what we do, you practice those things, but then you also tie in some personal stuff. So we will work on stuff like imposter syndrome. One of our team members have. So what we do is every week on the Monday morning, we'll actually get them to share something about imposter syndrome. Right, and they'll tell us, this is what it looks like, this is how it shows up, and these are the 3 things that we were learning to combat it. But what you're actually doing in that group setting is you're teaching everyone at the same time about imposter syndrome, and then everyone goes, "Oh shit, I think I've got a bit of imposter syndrome." Actually, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
I'm
then
not the only one.
yeah, exactly. So that's personal buy-in, as I was talking about before. The 70% of your life balance. You're now bettering their personal life by identifying something that they're not 100% with outside of work, which can flow into work. Imposter syndrome, ego, all those sorts of things, body image, everything that people. But everyone has it. Everyone has baggage, but no one talks about it.
Yeah, so, and I think that's like 100%, and it's really one of those things that being and yourself being a manager of people as well. There's something you can learn to appreciate and acknowledge people's differences. Like if you constantly expect everybody, like I've currently got a team of 12 and no 2 people are the same. So
no.
So many different hats, and coming into the role that I'm currently in, I said, okay, who are my people and what are their drivers? Like, because not everybody, like I said, not everybody's going to want to be there for money. One of the best pieces of advice I got from a past boss was, I can go broke sitting on the beach. I don't need to work this hard to do it. So I stand by that.
Nice.
But for some people, if everything else is falling apart, how much money they get, it's not going to be enough to want them and to will them to come to work. I have people who autonomy is a real winner for them because they've got kids, they like being able to be there for pick up and drop off. And then I've got some team members who are really wanting to have personal growth, or they're studying outside of work and having that understanding to go, your life is a lot more than what I see from 9 to 5. That personability I really find gets the best out of them. And then when you do have to have the conversations, you go, okay, here's a target that we set together, we're probably not meeting that. There's reasonability to come back and go, yep, fair play, I know I can change these things. Or if I need to drive and pull some levers and get some different expectations, that's there. And it worked a lot in the trade space as well when I was managing a HVAC company, and it was a multinational, and so there was a lot of technicians and a lot of different moving parts across the state. And none of those 2 technicians had the same drivers, even though they had the same qualifications. Like some of them loved overtime. And every time there was overtime, put their hands up. Others, they just couldn't do overtime and didn't have enough to it. So it's getting that understanding. And where I've seen it fall down is when leaders will say, like, they'll want something done and it will be just do it. And yes, sometimes we just need something done, but where you get the buy-in is the understanding of, why am I doing this? How's it contributing? And it's not necessarily an ego thing, but it's the person saying, how am I contributing? How am I giving value? Because as you said, like that imposter syndrome, people want to know that they're making a difference. Some people don't care.
Exactly.
A lot of people, some people will just clock in and clock out.
Exactly.
We always need
and people, and we need that in the world. 100%. Not everyone can run the ship and steer the ship. It's just I actually, to be honest, I want to touch back onto your mentoring side. You mentioned that before. That's a space that we are moving into in this arena, which is inspirational, and I think it's the best foot forward for a lot of reasons. But what does that look like for you? What are you doing, and what are the outcomes?
So, well, for me, when I started the Narwick journey in 2017, so Women in Construction in Queensland, there was an opportunity that, as a part of that conversation that I'd have with the project manager, to move into mentoring, because he goes, I think, like, he had young boys, and he said, I think a lot of young women could learn from you, which is a very nice thing for him to say. And so from that, I ended up being matched. So now we will do a program where they'll match you with somebody. So a mentor will apply, a mentee will apply, and it'll be, what are you looking for? What's lacking in your professional life? And what are you hoping to get from this? And so I was matched with a young lady. I say young lady, she was the same age as me. So I'm giving myself a compliment there. I'll take them where I can get them.
Yeah, nice.
And so I was matched with her, and she was a second-year electrical apprentice. And she said, look, she goes, how did you do it? And I said, I didn't have a mentor, and I didn't have anybody who from a female capacity in the workspace that I could identify that I went, I want to be where they are, because they just weren't, like, it just wasn't common then. There were a lot of women who were doing other roles which didn't align with my strengths or my drivers or what I wanted to be able to do. And so from that, I was paired with her, and what it was really, it was a good leveling experience for me to be going, I forgot, like, some of the things that I forgot that were just a part and parcel of the day to day. It was good for stuff that I experienced that I probably should have said more about at the time, or approached in a different way at the time, to sort of either stand up for myself. And you and I both know there's different ways of saying and doing things to get the outcome. You'd say, like, is this normal? And I go, look, if it continues this way, this is the outcome that you're going to get. Like, have been there and seen it. So if you can off at the past now and approach it in a different tact, like, and again, said her two different ways of saying things, but it was, she got value out of it from going, somebody else has been here, I'm not alone, and there's a way to overcome. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think young men need that as well. I honestly think it's not isolated to young women. I'm an avid supporter of Mates in Construction, because I think that they do wonderful things, whether, like, that's largely in the suicide prevention space, but being a connector for them, it just showed that everybody needs to talk or
absolutely
release in some capacity. It's not just isolated to young women.
That's right. Sorry. Sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, like in that space, that's how I was able to help that young lady. She helped me as well, like, to get that gauge to go, like, and I was a very new mum. My daughter was only 2.5, and so it was a good reminder to set the example for her as well, and to go, like, if and while she was the same age as me, I was like, if this was my daughter, what would I want somebody to say to her? Would I want somebody to go, just suck it up, that's the way things are? Or would I want somebody, you can grow from this, and you're going to help somebody else grow from it?
You need to learn to navigate as well as pick your battles, right? And again, choose your words as well. There's 2 different ways you can do it, and 2 different outcomes, or 7 different ways you can do it, and 7 different outcomes.
Exactly.
And mindset's got to do with it. The Mates in Construction stuff is absolutely amazing. I actually only learnt about it about 1.5 years ago, to be honest. And as you said, it's just, they are about suicide prevention, but it's also identifying that there is an issue in the industry. Like, I've seen some statistics, and I think they're pretty accurate, but we'll see. But I think it's 60% of the suicide rate is males in construction. It's a huge, staggering rate. And
it's unbelievable.
And now that Mates Construction, hopefully people can talk about it more, males, females, everybody. But it's a great service that's been put into place for a reason, and it's a resource that a lot of people need to access. We are actually working on a partnership with them potentially for a program we've released, which
wonderful.
Which is really, really good. I don't know if you've heard about it. If you did any research on us before, it's called the Synergy Trade Program, and that's designed to get just more awareness of the trade world and help kids define their future and pick a trade. All those things I was talking to you about, mindset, understanding what the trade world is, and also picking your employer and things like that. It's all in this program, right? So it's, start to finish, and it's written by traders. It's not written by, someone that doesn't have any idea that's in an office. It's not been in the tools or been in work for 20 years and going to write a program. It's actually, I've overwritten it, but a lot of the staff members here have assisted, because I wanted the authenticity of what happens every day, right? I don't want to smoke screen kids. I want them to be, this is what the game is, guys. Each field, each category, this is where you can go. And, a big part of that is we have a partners that, which is what I'm so passionate about with mentoring, is we're going into schools now, and we're also talking to, we're partnered with NICA, CITB, looking at the Plumbing Association, and NICA are Refrigeration Council down here as well. So they're together.
Okay.
And then also I'm looking at Mates and Constructions, because we have a closed Facebook group where I want a culture to build in there, an environment for these kids that are going through apprenticeships, going through these struggles, to have this support network. So each partner has an obligation to, when they have an issue with, say, if it's electrical, they'll hashtag support electrical, and whatever their issue is. My employer might be doing this, or this is happening. What are my rights? Because they don't have access to those things as apprentices. They don't have access to, the rules and regulations, and it costs a lot of money to be a part of these foundations, right? So the whole idea is to try and, as I said, when I started my business, the 5 things I wanted to do was improve people and get them to tick these boxes. And then I realized that 2 years ago that, wow, I can do this on a massive scale without putting my guys in the field. I can change the next generation and help them, guide them into making the right decisions, so that they don't treat a job at someone's house like a building site. They like their job. They want to be there, right? And just various stuff like that. So the mentoring side to me is really like where we're moving. We've got a female ambassador on board from Melbourne, Amy Stanton. She was on House Rules.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's on board. She's looking to potentially come and do some school work with us and come in and talk to the kids and really get that awareness going and get that the culture around being a tradie, how cool it can be, and all that sort of stuff. And that's really cool. When you said mentoring, I didn't realize that it would be one-on-one, and it's pretty interesting that they let you do that, because that's a huge step into someone's life. For an organization, a foundation, to sit there and go, here is Cassie. We want you to mentor her life. That's amazing.
It's I'm really lucky. I applied to be a part of it again this year, to be a mentor, and the team were so lovely. They're like, Lachlan and Shona, they have put it together this year, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll have you on board. We'd love to have you on board. We don't have anybody to pay you with yet, but please come. And like wandering around like a puppy going, hi, how you going? How you going? Like, and it's really a lovely environment. So it's, we've actually got another group catch up tomorrow morning for coffee and a chat. So with all of the mentors, I think there's maybe 100 people participating in this lot. So 40 something pairs, so nearly 100 people. And then a couple of weeks later, they said, we have found you a perfect match. And so the lady that I'm mentoring now, she's well into her career, and she went the university route, and now she's going back into the trade space to get that all encompassing experience. And I'm learning so much from her. Like in our first catch up, like it's not just about what I can give to her, but again, bringing me back into understanding how people get into this dynamic. Like she's had a whole life outside of the trade space and is now coming back into that and asking me questions. And it's unbelievable the amount that you can learn from the people you mentor as well. Like I think that's important as well. And to be able to show that as well, not just, oh, well, I'm here to tell you.
Dictatorship doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Here are my notes.
I'm a human. You're a human. Let's talk.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not just about that at all. And then as a part of my day-to-day role, I'm very lucky in that the scope of apprentices and trainees that we've got nationally is over 450. And so I can have direct points to them. Like I was on the phone to somebody this morning who needed to get their workplace. They had this last piece of their puzzle that they just needed signed off after 4 years. And I said, mate, I want this for you more than you do at the moment. And so like, getting to have that direct input and output to people. And like, I live by and I teach my daughter this, we always leave people in situations better than we found them. We never take away from somebody, we never detract, and we always make a positive change in people's lives. We might not be able to do that sometimes, but we never take away from it. So it's all a bit altruistic to be able to come back now and say, like, I'm going to be Siri interrupting. She's very nosy. It's really good to be able to circle back and live and breathe something that you go, okay, I'm going to be for somebody what I didn't have, but also where there's a genuine need. So that's where, the mentoring is fantastic. And the one-on-one, like the group mentoring is amazing because I think it really brings a collection of people together because in a one-on-one space, it doesn't take a while to break those down, but you can't necessarily 100% align with somebody all of the time or see yourself in. You'll go, I'm about 40% like similar track, but then I've got these other contributing factors. Whereas in that group capacity, there's always somebody who understands what you're talking about at the time. Like it can't all come from the same person, but the group capacity is great. And I've seen that in going through the Mates in Construction training. It's a really sombering sort of thing to do because you're sitting there with a group of peers and co-workers, and they'll be sharing stories of things that they've experienced, and then you'll be sharing stories. And some people they take on a completely new light. And then when it comes to the fact of enacting things like that, and Mates in Construction in particular, when you're asking the question, like, have you considered suicide? And is this something that is resonating with you? It's a pretty difficult question to ask. And you get to know somebody intimately like that from asking that question. But again, that's where you can make a real difference in people's lives. So like I will never regret having the capacity to mentor somebody. And I don't think I've never met a person who says, I regret having a mentor. I regret having support. Like it's an amazing thing. And I'm so grateful to be in a position where I can do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's such a good opportunity. There's not, I don't know if there's many opportunities like that in South Australia for male orientated trade work. I don't know. I don't think I've never really heard of any. But if there was, I would love to get involved in. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, and even like being the Kickstarter for something like that, like it's a time and a great opportunity to instigate change.
That's right.
I think it would just blow you away how many people you would get put their hand up and go, yeah, I'll come have it. Like even at the Narwick stuff, we have a wine, we have a pizza, like it's all very relaxed, but you get genuine outcomes from it. So go have a beer and a burger and see who opens up. It's really surprising. Yeah.
As I said, the reason why I started my business was for this reason. It's around the way circle that I've gone to get there. But now we, in April, we're looking at sitting down with over 200 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students that are looking to get into that. They don't know what they want to do yet, but they're looking in the construction area. So I'm putting my hand up and saying, hey, I want to come and talk to you guys about being a sparky, a plumber, or an air conditioning technician. Like that's my world. Let's talk about it. And I think it's, as you said, it's going to be a lot different coming from not a teacher or something like that. It's coming from an individual that's actually lived and breathed it. Not saying that teachers haven't, but there is a difference. There's a different message from someone like yourself and myself compared to someone that's just there as a job to do that, right? Like a lecturer or things like that. It
holds so much more water.
Oh, absolutely. Really and I think coming in from a vulnerable spot as well, not being perfect, not being the ultimate, you just got to be honest. And you had pitfalls, everyone's learning. The best thing I've adapted over the past years of my business is having a learning mindset. I can't lose. I can't fail. That's right. So if I, if I didn't win, I've learned, haven't I? Well, what do I got to do next time? And that's some of the stuff that people don't really. The whole winning and losing thing to me just doesn't really sit well. I've had we've had some massive challenges in the business, but it's been very hard, and we've now pushed through over 2 months, and now we're we're back, but we've learned a lot in like a short period of time. It's just been boom, let's go.
That's it. And in the days of like information being right there and social media and I love all those platforms. They're great, but nobody ever puts the gag reel on there.
No.
Like, it's never the sleepless nights, the difficult conversations, the situations where you realize I've said or done the wrong thing. Like, we don't emphasize that. And that's just a way that different people process things. But it's great to see like, and having that touch point, like I'll be able to go to site now. We'll have people out in mining situations and I'll go out and visit them if they need a performance management piece with their field officer. And you just sort of see the switch flip when you say like, when I was at TAFE or and they go, oh, you did a trade. And you'll go, yep. And they're like, oh, and that just sort of really changes. And I go, and look, I didn't pass every exam. I had to do resets as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's all learning. All they sort of see is like, oh, she's coming in. What would she really know? And it's not because I'm female by any means, but it's just they see what it takes to get there. Like I said, 14 years, it's been a bit like that. Yeah. And I've had some massive setbacks. So as you just said, you have as well. But I think that's where, with the right mindset, you use the setbacks as a learning opportunity, not a broadcasting chance.
That's right.
We celebrate the wins, but we learn from the setbacks. And I think dwelling and digging down and getting stuck in the weeds when things go wrong, I think that's where, from a mentoring piece, saying to somebody it's okay to fail. Like, and I don't necessarily like fail, but it's okay to not get there straight away as long as you're working. It's like keep chipping away. Keep it, because some of it just all falls into place.
Yeah,
so
it does. It really does, and it all works out. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. I always run. It was kind of like having children. I always ran with the tack that far dumber people than me have had children. She'll be all right.
Yeah. Roll the dice.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. I will wake up tomorrow and it will all be fine. Tomorrow's a new day.
Exactly. So, you got another day to make yourself better. And all those, I do all these things now where you learn how to, mentally prepare. Do you meditate?
I have tried it.
Yeah.
I've tried flow, but I struggle with it. I'm getting.
Yeah.
That's one of my personal development things.
I know.
I thought that good.
It is hard to do, especially if you've got such an active brain, right? So if you just. But I've found for myself, it's been a huge difference in the way I am every single day, and taking care of myself, and especially people in the industry. If they're so busy, they stop taking care of their body and they stop taking care of their mind and they stop taking care of all that stuff. And that's the first thing that's the slippery slope I find with people, is that that's where they won't even realize that they're going down. And then something will happen when they're down here. And that's when it's really, really bad, right? And that's when the situation is amplified. Where if you are of a stable mind and you're conscious of your thoughts and your internal dialogue and your meditation and all that stuff comes into play, the 1%ers that everyone talk about, you're better equipped to deal with that crisis situation, to deal with that situation. In this recent one that I went through, it was pretty crazy. And I stopped doing all that. Stopped going to the gym, stopped meditating, stopped eating well, stopped eating. I didn't eat for like 3 or 4 days because it was just, I've never been in a situation that I was in. And I was sitting there going, well, how am I going to get out of this? Right. But before even that thought was I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, and then you start doubting yourself, and then you stop eating, you stop all that nutrients, everything stops. So I think, part of the messaging for myself from a mentor role is about, looking after yourself first, understanding who you are and knowing your limits, but being conscious with your self-dialogue. So, those self-doubt moments, those I'm not worth this, and it's really interesting. Someone taught me a technique to do it. And it's really interesting throughout the day when you catch yourself and you go, what the hell? And you go, that's not even real. Like, that is just such...
I just did it subconsciously.
Exactly. But then that's just this thing, right? But once you start catching that pattern and catching those things, you can stop that and you can actually start reversing it. And and then you're more conscious to the self-sabotaging things that come up in your life, because a lot of people self-sabotage when they get into a point where they think they shouldn't be there. Oh, I'm happy.
Yeah.
What's going to go wrong?
Yeah, this is too good to be true.
Yeah, exactly. And then subconsciously you'll do something, and it's so dangerous. Subconsciously you'll do something to put yourself back in that position. Exactly. It's like herd mentality as well. Like when you're in a herd of people, like in the construction industry as you are, and you were the female that was like, I'm gonna be a electrician, and the herd's like, hey, come back, don't do that. You're supposed to be over here in this box. You're supposed to be going to uni. You're not smart enough, as you said before. Sorry, no, I thought you were smart, and things like that. It's like that's that mentality of people trying to just bring you back to the norm, right? And that same thing happens inside in your mind.
Chip away, don't deviate, and it's like, and the big, like you're absolutely spot on with people having to you need to give yourself the best basis to build, whether it's up or down. So, like you said, if you have those bad days where a spanner gets thrown in the works, and they're gonna happen, if you're not operating from a level playing field and you've just been taking from the tank, it all goes to water. And I remember speaking with my team at the start of COVID, because in North Queensland and in Queensland, when you have like a cyclone or something, the bottle fills up straight away. Everybody just boom. And I said, this is not a rain day. I said, this is not a situation where we need to turn to our vices to get through. I said, please reach out. I said, because this period will be a really slippery slope. And we did see it as a culture, like people developing drinking habits. People either learned a new language, got really fit, or they developed vices, expanded on their vices. And I think the principle of, and it's more prevalent in females, but like the principle of self-love, it'll muddy the waters. Whereas sometimes self needs to be keeping yourself accountable. It's not telling you all the things you want to hear. It's going, I need to put myself at a point where I can approach each day, no matter what comes, that I can approach it from a standpoint that it's not going to completely rock my world. So in fitness, like I've got a really supportive partner in terms of if we both have really stressful jobs. So we're stressed, we go to the gym. We don't like, he's not a drinker. We don't then go, okay, we'll go have a bottle of wine. Some people like to, our basis for health is going, okay, we'll go to the gym, we'll exercise, we'll go for a walk, we'll do something. And I think it's creating those healthy cultures, which in the construction industry, it's not, like you would have seen it prevalent as well. That's
the pub. Let's go to the pub. Let's have beers, and then
that's it. It's not the default. That's one shift that I'm trying to implement with apprentices and trainees that I get to have a touch point with. Like if we notice something's going down, I'll have a chat to them and go like, so do you enjoy sports, or do you have a hobby, or do you this or that? And like sell like dirt bikes, or we've got a few bull riders. So which isn't always conducive to being on the tools. Collarbone. So it's good for story time. But definitely having that basis that the world doesn't go into a spin when things don't go away, or when inevitably life happens. That's right. That's a really important piece as well. And being able to foster that from a workplace perspective is really good too, and leading by example. So absolutely. Yeah. But for me, I think it's all about self-accountability. So, and if somebody like yourself is living and breathing that and demonstrating that to your team, I think it's fantastic. Like I wouldn't tell my team to go find a hobby if I was like, oh no, I don't do anything. So
what do you do? Nothing. What are you talking about?
Nothing. I just sit at home, watch television. So I think living and breathing practicing what you preach, I think is fantastic. And I think if more leaders did that, and more people in this industry in particular did it, I think that would go a long way to helping a lot of the issues that we're seeing, vulnerable young men and women.
Well, that's the thing. I think now more than ever, the actual mindset is a little bit, it's people's journeys are a little bit more twisted, I think, now than they were before. Because it's a throwaway generation, because there's as you said, there's 7 careers, like people are just not really knowing what to do. And for someone like myself, when I was growing up, grew up pretty rough, the process I went through was my life was predetermined. That's what I thought. I thought that this is the track and I was on it and that was it, right? And it wasn't, even with my business and stuff like that, I started that years ago. It wasn't until about 2 years ago when I just had this crazy awakening moment. Like, it was nuts. And I realized that I'm actually in control of my own actions, right? And it goes a long way with the mentorship with these young adults, realizing that every step you take actually does have every action you take has a reaction, right? So, I was in such a dark space at this point where I was starting to self-sabotage. I was starting to do all these things, drinking and things like that. And I got to a point where I was like, this isn't what I have. I got 2 lovely daughters, by the way. And I was like, this isn't what I want to do, right? Like, I can't be being the boss of a company or running a company. Your time's tied up. I don't want to be that. I don't want to drink on the weekends. I don't want to do any of this stuff. But I didn't have any mentors in my life to model by. So what I started doing was just mimicking someone that I thought was living by good values. And I would just do little things like, it sounds so stupid, but like just doing the dishes right there and then, making my bed in the morning, putting my clothes away. Like this, when you're in a depressive state and these things aren't getting done, you then redefine yourself by taking those small action, having little wins, right? And then you start being the man or the person that you want to actually be. And by a result of that, I've had this huge growth period. And I really think that taking these messages to the public and mentorship and things like that every action you take will have a reaction. Whether it's good or bad is up to you. It's either a learning thing, or it's a positive step. You might take that conversation a different way next time.
Yeah, and it's so, like, one of the things I've really, really learned within the past 18 months is when so many adversities have been thrown, is it's not necessarily the situation that can control me, but how I respond to it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's all about how either what I'm making it in my head or how I think things are supposed to go. And instead, like, thinking that track is predetermined, and it sometimes just has to come a point where you stop, rip the tracks and move them to the other direction. Because if you don't, then yes, you may as well just strap yourself in and somebody's living your life for you. So it's never going to change.
And sometimes it's a simple coping mechanism for these sorts of things, as simple as just writing a list. So when I was in this crisis period last few months, I've just wrote a list, right? And I numbered one through in priority that I thought was a priority. And then I actually crossed out ones that were completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So all I can do, I can worry about the out of control ones, but it doesn't benefit me. All I can do is work on these 5 goals here, fix these, and hope the rest of it works out. Because I don't know. The reality is you don't know what's going to happen. All you can do is put your best foot forward.
And on your list of 20, if you can't change 7, those 7 are going to destroy the other 13.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's and we're always going to have external influences.
Yep.
But and that's just a fact of life. And I find sometimes that's the hardest part of a conversation with somebody who's going, this is life, and you're always going to have external factors that we can't control.
Yep.
So we may as well control what we can. And how you said, like, the making the bed and doing the dishes and those little bits and pieces, it's figuring out, and whilst they might seem minute at the time, or they might seem like big things at the time, and retrospectively they're relatively minor.
Yeah.
That's what you if that's what you have control over in that piece, then take control. Don't relinquish everything.
Yeah.
Because then you are just a passenger,
Yeah.
and it's going to change. And the way that that things do roll out in society now is, yes, it can be very every man for himself. So you can't expect somebody's going to scoop you up on the way and take you with them.
Yeah.
You'll get left in the dust. So
if you are a passenger, you will be the one that falls.
Exactly.
100%.
It will never be out on top if you're a passenger.
Exactly. Control what you can.
Exactly. Awesome. So and again, as a worker, having a leader such as yourself demonstrating those things is fantastic, and I think there should be more of it. definitely within our industry.
Oh, thank you so much. I think, yeah, I think it's coming. I think a lot of the way that the way that social media, the world's working right now, the information out there, it's tenfold.
Yeah.
Right. You can't argue with the results that people are getting from instilling this sort of stuff into their businesses. It's impossible. So I do believe there is a new era of business model, and I do believe there's a new era of business owners coming. It's going to be great.
Yes. Yes, I'm seeing more and more of it. Excellent.
Oh, great. Well, I've actually had a really good time talking with you today. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's been fantastic.
No, thank you. I was wondering, what advice would you give to anyone getting into the trades?
Stick with it.
Yep.
As you said, we're in a throwaway society.
Yeah.
4 years of your life, 3 years of your life, whatever it may be. If you're doing a traineeship, it's 2. If you don't start now, when will you start?
Yeah.
And if you don't stick with this, and if it's something else, like what's gonna make that decision for you? In 4 years, you could be done by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that there's a lot to be said for determination.
Yeah.
So it won't always be easy, but when it's not, reach out to those support networks. Don't throw it away. And then, just coming back to champions. And if for people who don't need one, try and be one for somebody, because odds are somebody around you needs one. If you don't have one and you need one, find one and repay that faith tenfold.
Yeah.
So whether you're on the champion or needing one, you will never regret either way, making those relationships and making those really positive connections, because that will be what will get you through the difficult days, because there will be difficult days.
Yeah. But those difficult days are building resilience, right?
That's it. And they don't last forever.
Yeah.
They really don't. It's temporary.
Yeah, that's it. Well, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Cassandra Rowan.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Sean.